Ah, that's great. Thanks, Craig, for jumping in to decide to record now, even though we're using Skype to roll. So that was cool. Missed about half what I was saying. So anyway, welcome back, folks, to another episode of the Lone Wolf Howlcast, howling out for logic and reason in a world that's gone beyond any kind of adjective I can think of at this point, because last episode it had gone past potato after the Gina Carano / Mr. Potato Head stupidity. And we're going to go off on a tangent tonight, I think, and discuss what really matters to all. You know what that is?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Sure you do, my friend. What are we friending me about all the time?
I mean, salamanders, the best legion? I think so.
No way, man. Blood Angels all the way. Blood Angels for life, yo. I need to get a Blood Angels tattoo, I guess.
The salamanders are the only one that love people. Blood
Blood
angels are
Angels
vampires.
The Blood Angels are very humanitarian. Just don't be anywhere near them once the rage takes over.
Yeah.
I will concede that these salamanders, close seconded by the Ultramarines, are the most humanitarian Space Marine chapters / legions
Wait a minute. The
there are.
Ultramarines are humanitarian? Are they?
Dude, their auxilia is pulled from their own population on their homeworlds. Like, they interact very closely with the population of their worlds. They're not standoffish like, say, the Space Wolves.
I think they're the only. Okay, so what I look at that is they really give a shit about the 500 worlds of Macragge, but outside of Macragge, they're not. I don't think they care.
When the Ultramarines go to war, they still interact with the local populace or the Imperial Guard regiments that are sent.
Okay, all right. I didn't. I mean,
speaking of which,
yeah,
it has nothing to do with Ultramarines, but there is a second-tier contender who just put out a CGI animated, very short film.
Are you talking Raptor?
Death Corps of Krieg. There's Raptor, which was a very superior CGI job. I don't think it was as clean as Astartes.
None of them are. None of them are, yeah.
Somebody just put out, the name is Sodaz, Sodaz, on YouTube. And I'm going to link it in the comments below, folks. But he just did roughly a 6-minute video of the Death Corps of Krieg. And spoiler alert / Easter egg, as all the memes show, right? There's brother, get me the heavy flamer for heresy, right? Air quotes heresy. And then somebody started a meme about the Death Corps of Krieg that says, brother, get me the trenching tool, which is a shovel. The guy implements the shovel in the animation.
Wait, you want to make today's episode about memes and Warhammer?
What makes you think that at all, Tiral?
Let's try that. Because it's funny that I'm noticing now that like I'm super into like the Reddit and Grimdank. There's a class of memes of what Warhammer 40K is, and then there's like the lore, and then there's like the tabletop. It's like there's 3 different worlds.
Yeah, there's different tiers, and then there's Henry Cavill, who's going to be the emperor of all of us.
Man, he got kicked out of Superman.
Wait a minute, that bullshit about him dating Gina Carano like 10 years ago stuck, and now he's not Superman anymore?
I don't think it's about Gina Carano. I think they just wanted a black Superman.
Yeah, who's going to watch that nonsense? The only way I could see that play out is way back in the Death of Superman, when that was like all the rage, and it went through 10 different prints, although I'm probably exaggerating. So Superman came back as Superman, but he didn't know who he was. There was Terminator Superman, and then there was Steel, which was the black dude, but in like sort of a cybernetic
the 5 Supermans.
Iron Man suit.
Right.
So if they're going to do it that way, I would watch a Steel movie. But
no, they're not doing it that way.
That Kal-El has stayed out in the sun too long?
No, they're doing I think it looks like they're doing a brand new origin film. They're starting from scratch again.
Oh boy, they're going to lose a lot of money on that one.
Oh.
Well, maybe not in this era. Because that's probably a stunning and brave move to take.
I don't know how much. I don't know how much money they will make. It's a very odd choice. Again, Superman's an alien. Of course, he can be black. We're not saying he can't be black. But
No, he can't. He's definitely a white guy in his origins from the planet Krypton and Action
it's
Comics
a
number.
fictional movie. I mean, you can, creators can do different things. I
Except
mean,
that's not the lore and the basis of the character, man. That's like,
why it's
I think
artistic
Terrell's all of
license.
a sudden a South American guy from Antigua, and
Well,
I don't know why he's dropped his accent. It's
I mean,
freaking
if
me
it's a
out.
fictional story and you have artistic license, like without artistic license, art can't move forward, especially when the first Superman was created by Jewish comic book artists, immigrants to the country, and they made Superman. I don't think there'd be too much opposition if another creator takes, with permission, takes their IP and takes creative license and creates Black. I think the bigger issue is they've been restarting Superman too many times and too fast, and it's kind of like people are getting sick of it, and people are losing their love for the character too.
Yep.
Like I actually think Henry Cavill was a mistake as Superman because Henry Cavill is immensely, like, just great when he's a villain. He pops on the screen when he plays the bad guy. And when he's supposed to be Superman, I think he's the Zack Snyder vision of Superman. And the Zack Snyder vision of Superman is not the best guy in the world. But
Well, there's a new Superman TV series in the Arrowverse. It's the same actor who popped in as Superman once or twice during the Supergirl series.
mhm,
I think his name is Tyler Hoechlin, off the top of my head.
mhm.
They've always tried to stay with roughly the same kind of facial structure
The
of
jawline, yeah.
Christopher Reeves. They've always tried to stay in like his sort of facial metrics for the actor they pick to play him. And I haven't caught the series yet. I keep forgetting to watch it, and I want to watch it. It's called Superman and Lois. It's on the CW,
Mhm.
whatever network that is for you folks locally where you're listening. So it's a recommend to check it out. I would actually love some feedback on it. I'm
Yeah.
going to try and catch it on demand.
I
But I've
mean,
been a big Superman fan. Superman's been an inspiration for me my whole life. I mean, I started out, with a whole lot of detriments to me, and I've always looked to Superman actually as motivation to keep moving forward.
I think he's being handled inappropriately because Superman in the DC um, cartoons, the cartoon movies especially, is fantastic. The way he's portrayed, the way he's used,
Yeah, Superman Public Enemy was awesome. Red Sun, both
fantastic.
I think they did an animated movie of that, but the comic book of Red Sun, holy cow.
Yeah.
Not Red Sun, it was Red Son. And it's an alt
What
origin
if?
story
Yeah.
of this Kal-El landed in Russia, Red Russia, back in the 80s.
Instead of America.
Yeah, instead of, a good old Kansas farm.
Yeah, it's not like there's no good source material for Superman. It's not like there's people who don't understand Superman. But when it comes to these movies, like it is not good. Like Brandon Ruth as Superman just didn't work, and the actor like came out in interviews and explained how like once he became Superman the role, his head got too big and he made a lot of mistakes. Um, but he was not a good choice as Superman, and I honestly think Henry Cavill was a poor choice for Superman. Zack Snyder was definitely the poor choice as director for Superman.
I
And
disagree, sir. Can't wait until that Zack Snyder cut gets released for
well,
Justice League.
most of it is really not Zack Snyder, right? Like other people are putting it, they're just slapping his name on. Most of it's not really him. All the new stuff, it's not. He's not directing anything. It's
Yeah,
30.
but he had the original script for that, and then they kicked him off the project, right? So there's got to be some cutting room floor footage that's getting spliced in. I guess we won't know until we see it,
Yeah,
right?
we won't know until we see it. He
But I tell you what, if
he's
Laura Dern with like an extra stretched neck and purple hair shows up, I think I'm done.
well, it's not that like Zack Snyder is not a good director, I think, and also but that being said, when the stories are very cynical and very dark, that's when he shines. And do we want a cynical and dark Superman? If your answer is yes, then he's the director for you.
Absolutely, yes.
But if you
You know,
want,
we've moved on in a societal sense now where the Boy Scout, like even the comic books have sort of moved on before past that, that the goody two shoes Boy Scout persona
but I
doesn't
think,
really hold up
but I think
anymore.
that's what people want, though.
No, I
That's the
don't think
Superman.
so.
That's
In
I
this
think.
day and age where, like, for example, this is a massive spoiler alert, but I'm playing Minecraft Dungeons, which is pretty much a minor, very low key kind of art. It's not even RPG because you don't get to pick a class at all, but it's basically a dungeon crawl version of Minecraft that has a lot of layers to it. And here's the spoiler alert. One more time, Tiral. Spoiler alert. You take out the bad guy, and the final cinematic of the game is instead of shanking the bad guy, you help him stand back up. And like in a modern era, it's like, no, why aren't you putting a la Astartes? Why aren't you helping to punch his face in when this guy deserves it after killing untold amounts of people in the game and enslaving people and whatnot? Because that's what happens in the game, right? This arch enemy is sending undead against you, enslaved people,
Mm-hmm.
and then at the end you finally beat him, and it's a hairy, no frills fight, and you beat him. And the final cinematic is instead of shanking him through with whatever weapon you have, you put out your hand and help him stand back up, and you have no control over that action. And I would kind of feel like if Superman was fighting an enemy that was on par with him, like let's say Darkseid.
I
Oh,
was just
sorry,
gonna.
Darkseid, I just beat the crap out of you. I'm going to help you stand back up now so you can go home and plot against me some
Well,
more.
you used one of the most famous examples of when Superman in canon goes all out. Like one of the most famous passages in Superman or modern Superman is when him and Darkseid are fighting, and like Darkseid's talking shit, and Superman just finally says like, "Oh, it's so nice to finally be able to let loose." And Darkseid's like, "What do you mean?" It's like, everyone else is made of paper, but with you, I know I can actually punch you. And Darkseid's like, "Oh, what?"
Yeah, I remember that. But also, even way back again, I'm going to reference the death of Superman again. When he fights, I'm going to have to edit myself here because I forgot the damn
Apocalypse?
name, Terrell. When
Apocalypse.
he fights like the random MacGuffin guy that breaks out of a lab who's made out of like stalactites and crap.
Apocalypse. No, no, not
No,
Apocalypse.
Apocalypse.
Oh,
That's Marvel, bro. Now I got to edit
you're right.
you.
You're right.
He
No, no,
crossed
no,
two
no.
universes.
It's.
Hell, I might even just leave this in, folks, because this is really funny. Because none of us can
Oh
remember the
my
bad
God,
guy.
we're having the. I mean, that's how memorable
Doomsday. When he
Doomsday,
fights Doomsday,
who's
and
really like
he's so
saying, like whatever doesn't kill him, like keeps making him more powerful. Is
yeah.
dumb.
So there's a YouTube channel, and I for the life of me I can't remember the guy's name, but I'll remember it after this tonight, and I'll link it in the comments below. But there's a guy who does the science of Superman and what would happen if Superman punched you, like actually punched you. And it'd pretty much be like a small supernova going off if he went all out and punched you like full strength. So Superman's never actually gone all out in the comics because otherwise Earth would just explode and cease to exist.
Yeah, like again, we're getting off track. For me, when you see Henry Cavill play edgy characters, villains, like in The Witcher or in
He's not
the
a
mission.
villain though; he's an anti-hero.
I mean, he's edgy. He goes under the edgy column on there. He was the villain in the Mission Impossible movie, where he was spectacular. Like when they killed him off on screen, I was like upset. I was like, I wanted to see more of that character fight the good guys. Um, Henry Cavill pops. He really, really does. And he was just the wrong choice for Superman. He would be a fantastic villain in the DC universe.
Dude, I don't know, man. First of all, he's got the build. Like part of being Superman is having
Sure,
that physique.
sure. Without a doubt.
And
It,
again, he kind of falls into that facial structure of Christopher Reeves.
I'm not disputing that, but when he looks angry, man, that dude looks great. He does anger
Right.
very well.
As you may recall, he does get angry as Superman.
which doesn't work, which is the reason why a lot of people didn't interface. Because
It
Superman
worked for
is
me.
actually the vast majority of people that doesn't work. Most people, um, Superman doesn't get angry. He might get determined, but he's always happy, smiling, optimistic, trying to show humanity a better way to live. The Zack Snyder version of Superman, most people found, I don't want to say distasteful, but like disconnected. They felt he was very disconnected. Again, nothing against Henry Cavill, but I think, if
I
you're
mean,
if you're
nobody beats George Reeves, my friend.
Christopher Reeves,
No,
the
George Reeves,
original, the
the
original
OG.
OG.
OG, him and Kirk Allen were the OG black and white Supermen.
I think
Supermen.
Superman's. I kind of like
Supermen's.
Christopher. I kind of like Christopher Reeves the best. Christopher Reeves had a lot of heart. Incredibly handsome. Built for his time. His Clark Kent was really good. I thought Christopher Reeves Clark Kent was really good. But yeah, like I it's not that a black Superman I have a problem with. They need to steady the ship and just create one solid Superman movie. Not a good Superman movie, a solid Superman movie, and that everyone can kind of get behind, and then get going. Like, to do another origin story is just mind-boggling. We've had so many origin stories, and um, you know,
You know what? I got to segue from that.
yeah,
I thoroughly enjoy what they've done with the Tom Holland Spider-Mans in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that the first one he's in, they don't even bother giving you the origin story because it's expected that the fan base, even the casual fan base, is going to know it at this point, and they just jump right into the story instead of like retreading the story of
over,
him
yeah,
going to a science lab somewhere and he gets
Uncle
bit
Ben
by a
dying,
radioactive spider. We see Uncle Ben die for the millionth
yeah.
time and shed our Tobey Maguire tears. Like, oh, I like that they did that. Speaking of Superman, how about this? That's just like a crazy fan idea out there, but maybe a roided up, full head of hair Karl Urban as Superman.
Karl Urban has range. He can do so many things. I just want to see him be Judge Dredd again.
Yeah. Oh my God, Dredd was awesome.
I mean, what a misfire the marketing team did, and no one came to watch one of the best, like, cult sci-fi movies.
I watched that in theaters. I went to go see that in theaters. Actually, wait a minute. You and I went to go see that
We did,
together, I think.
yeah, we did.
Yeah,
We were
we saw that
blown away.
together. It was it
We
was it was so true to the comic books, and the helmet never came off,
Helmet never came off.
which is what Dredd does.
Every part of it was lore correct, but forget the being lore correct. It felt right. Everything worked. Every single thing worked in that movie. You know me, and I nitpick even movies I love. I can't think of a single thing to nitpick. That movie is just
Yeah,
fantastic.
it just worked. And
Yeah,
Lena Headey as the
she was
villain.
fantastic. Yeah, as Mother.
Yeah. Ah, man, great.
Yeah, like
Good
she
stuff.
she was. I mean, so Karl Urban, I kind of think he can either do like serious stuff or things where he can do a little bit of comic relief. Because in the Thor movies, he was the comic relief, and
Yeah.
I mean they killed him off, but he was. I think he's got range. I don't know if he. Man, you can't unsee Butcher now. Butcher from the
From the
Boys.
boys, yeah.
You can't look at Karl Urban wearing an S costume and be like, yeah, that's Superman. No, that's
But you know
Butcher.
what? I still see bones from the retread of Star Trek.
Or Bones, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
Dr. Bones, in case anybody
Dr.
wants to
Bones,
know.
yeah. Like, Karl Urban is starting to rack up like a list of just these roles that he's had that he's just knocked out of the park. Like, maybe not the greatest roles in the world, but he just keeps knocking them out of the park. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he would be good at Superman, because who the hell
You know
knows?
what? He was also in a sci-fi series that I wish they continued, but Sci-Fi Channel, or network rather, has a bad habit of always canceling the good stuff. He was in, there's two series that had almost identical names, and one was Being Human, and I think the other one was Almost Human. I think he was an almost human, which was very cyberpunky, near future cyberpunk, not as far out as like Cyberpunk 2077, but he's a cop, and he's got a cybernetic leg, and he gets paired up with this cyborg life form, and he plays an amazing freaking role in that. It's either, I think Being Human is the supernatural version, which had the vampire, ghost, and werewolf living in the same house together. And then I'm pretty sure Almost Human is the one Karl Urban was in. It was so good, and then it just disappeared off the network.
Yeah, sci-fi is not a channel people like. One of my favorite new shows is on sci-fi called Resident Alien, and I just have no faith that sci-fi is going to be able to pick it up for a second season. Like, whatever they make, you hope gets into Amazon or Netflix afterwards.
Yeah, Alan Tudyk, man. I mean,
he's good.
You know, it's really funny. Another spoiler alert, folks. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert for you too, Tiral. So I guess, I don't know, take off your headphones. But Alan Tudyk is in Doom Patrol on HBO Max, and he is predominantly the villain, but he's also like a frenemy with one of the heroes. And in season 2, the heroes are like, where's Alan Tudyk's character is called Mr. Nobody. So the heroes are like, well, where's Mr. Nobody? And this other guy's like, I don't know where he went, man. He left to go do some voiceover crap or something like that. And sure enough, on IMDb, Alan Tudyk is listed in the credits for doing voiceover work in an anime.
Yeah,
he's very self-aware, very funny stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I take it back. I think Karl Urban could put anything his mind on. So maybe, give him Superman. Who knows?
Yeah, right. Give him Superman or
he might. Which
is ironic, I guess, that I say that because I wasn't thinking of The Boys at the time, where he's playing an anti-hero against a villain, Superman.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Homelander is pretty much a psychotic, sociopathic
Superman. He would be Superman in real life. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine. You know what else portrayed that really well was Brightburn. Especially if you're a kid and you hit puberty and these powers begin to awaken in you,
That's like an interesting movie. That's a real interesting movie.
Yeah, because at what point does parental control no longer hold any sway when you realize, well, I can pick up the family car. What are you going to do about it,
Yeah, and also, is the kid bad, or was he just a bomb set to go off?
Well, the MacGuffin in that is that when the kid finds his space capsule that he arrived in, it's sending him subliminal messages. So that's the only MacGuffin difference between him and the Superman origin story, because it's the same exact origin story as Superman, except that the kid is getting subliminal messages from his capsule, and Superman, Kal-El, doesn't. So in Brightburn, it's been old enough now. It's not a spoiler anymore. He starts getting the subliminal messages that he needs to rule and conquer. So he was sent to rule and conquer whatever planet he landed on.
Brightburn's a tough movie, and a lot of people didn't like it. I thought it was a movie that I'm glad was made, because it was like taking a realistic look. Like, hey, if an alien baby comes to town and you adopt it, like, how do you discipline an alien baby or alien kid?
Right. Who has a Super Saiyan strength, who has eye lasers that are hotter than the sun,
I think for what the movie was to be, it was good. I thought the acting was good, and I thought the kid who played it was good.
The kid was fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, the kid was downright scary. The actor playing I can't remember the character's name. So.
Superman, Superboy.
Yeah, Baby Superboy. The kid was downright scary.
But there was this. I did like that instead of giving you completely this is what it is. It didn't tell you if the kid went crazy or if the kid was just because he can't be stopped. He just did what he wanted. Was it that, or was it that he was set off by the alien ship to be like, all right, time to kill everybody, or
well, again, I think it was those subliminal suggestions from the because it wasn't really okay. I'm saying subliminal, but I guess that's incorrect because the parents can hear the ship transmitting as well, or the capsule transmitting as well, but they have no idea what it's saying. But the kid knows it instinctively, even though he never heard the language natively, you know? So I'm saying subliminal because he understands it on some level without knowing the language.
I'm just glad that movie got made. You know, like that was.
It was
that
good.
Was
It was a very real telling of if this had changed in Superman's origin, this is what we would have.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a small
You
change.
know?
It's not a big tweak. It's just a little bit. You know, I don't mind a black Superman. I think that they just need to really make sure it's a great fucking movie.
It's going to have to be a sublime, superior movie because otherwise it makes no sense.
Yeah, to make the audience live through another origin story, another like, it's just like, oh,
I'll be that guy and pander to the left, and in order to appease whoever decided, oh, this is a good idea. But anyway, we're way off topic, my friend. We were supposed to be ranting about Game of Thrones and 40K.
Yeah, but but this is a really interesting point though. There is a possibility it's not pandering if China keeps closing off business opportunities for Americans, especially like Hollywood movies. And what Marvel and other Disney really have learned is that in America, multicultural action movies do extremely well locally. They don't do well in China, but they do incredibly well here. The only multicultural cast movie that was a hit in China was the Fast and Furious series. Otherwise, if you have any diversity at the lead roles, it just dies in the vine over there. But in America, the people who go to the movies actually will spend money for those kinds of movies. So if they're suspecting that China is going to keep closing up shop with more trade war stuff, I could see kind of the logic in it. But I just think if you better have a great story they really feel you need to tell. If this is just pandering, like you said, or if it's just like, checking off a box, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, I feel like making the play that, hey, maybe we can sneak this past and this will play in China isn't going to work. It definitely feels like if they're going to go what's the catchphrase this day? Diversity and equity for Superman. Yeah. It's not going to, no pun intended, totally pun intended. It's not going to fly in China.
No, the budget better be low. The budget can't be, it can't be a $200 million movie. It would have to be a $100 million movie.
Yeah, it can't be a $200 million, $300 million special effects movie.
Yeah.
Where it's an actor in front of a green screen the entire time. A la Marvel. Just about anything Marvel.
The trade threat is real, and also the Chinese censors are demanding more and more like conciliations to the Chinese market. So it could, it might be that maybe massive movies have to kind of turn back a little bit, and not because.
It would be an amazing pipe dream. I'm sorry to keep interrupting you.
Yeah, go for it.
What would be an amazing pipe dream is if the government did the right thing and brought manufacture back to the States, so we weren't so vastly reliant on a communist nation for the bulk of our goods.
Well, then if the only way to do that is to ban Walmart and the rest from, buying off our legislatures. I mean, the business people in America did this to America. It's not.
Oh, I know. It's been air quotes here, lobbied / bribed out of American hands and into foreign nations, between bullshit trade. I think we're past the 15 minutes now. I can say bullshit trade agreements.
Yeah, I mean.
How the hell are we an hour? No, we're not an hour and 15 in. We're 32 minutes in. But you and I have been talking for a while.
For a while.
Started. All right, that's it. You ready? Game of Thrones and Warhammer 40K. That's what we were supposed to go on about tonight.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I have notes on it, man. Come on.
All
right, so you and I were talking about this about a week ago. You and I were talking originally about Game of Thrones about a week, maybe two ago, and we were talking about the ultra crappy ending and how we thought it should have ended. And one of the seriously obscure, deep dive fan theories that was out there for a while was that the series ends, it fades out, and it fades back in like you're inside a modern home, but looking at the front door. The front door opens. Kit Harington, the actor for Jon Snow, walks in modern clothing, throws his keys on the table, and says, "Hey, Ghost." And Ghost is the dog. It's a white German Shepherd sleeping on the rug. And the dog wakes up, and that's how the series ends. And that the implication is that the entire Game of Thrones universe is taking place in the dog's dream.
And it's all a dream. Yo, that dog has some really good human sex scenes in its head.
He's probably seen a lot of it. I mean, if you have a pet, they don't fully understand, or they do understand, and they want to see what's going on when you're getting it on.
I mean,
yeah, some of them were pretty interesting scenery going on there.
George R. R. Martin just needs to finish those books. Oh my God, please.
I know, right? It's like, dude, don't die. Finish the books. Which is completely self-serving.
Yeah, like, finish the books. I mean, I remember meeting him.
You met him?
Yeah.
You son of a bitch, you met him and you never told me until now?
I did. I remember when I said, yeah, a friend of ours that you know that is on your Facebook group that you have very much friction with on Facebook.
Okay, I know who that is.
Yeah. The two of us met him in DC.
Okay.
He's a chill dude. He's a really fun, loving dude who just wants to enjoy life. I kind of feel like everybody in the world wants him to finish these books, and he's just like, I just want to live. Like, I got money for
you met him and not an impersonator?
No, it was him. He was a good dude. Yeah.
Because I've heard in real life that he's actually kind of cranky and not very approachable.
Maybe we caught him in a good night.
Maybe he was high.
Maybe we caught him in a good night because we were at a bar and he just seemed like a fun-loving dude.
Buy him a drink?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, he bought one back for us. Yeah. So
super cool.
Yeah, he was a great impression. I just got the feeling that like he's just trying to enjoy his life, and for him, maybe finishing the books isn't the biggest priority in his life at this point where he's at.
Making buckets of money. Imagine being at that point in your life, Terrell. I don't care about making more buckets of money. I've already made so many buckets of money that I can't spend them fast enough.
I think it's more like, his health is an issue. Like, he knows there might not be too much longer. So would you rather be slaving away? Like, I have a hard time writing. Would I rather be slaving away in front of a computer for months at a time, or would I like enjoy my family, or enjoy the money I have, that or the time I have? It's a sad situation. At the end of the day, it's not a happy situation, and but hopefully those books come out.
There's been an interview or two where he said, well, he's working on it, and he said he did promise the fans that it'd be out in 2 years after the finale of the TV show, or the HBO show. So we'll see. There was sort of an amelioration project. I believe it's a book. It's a really gigantic book that weighs, I'm overestimating here, but it's like a 30-pound book that's called A History of Ice and Fire. And it's a worldview history book as if written by a maester from within the world of Westeros. So it's like I'm explaining it horribly bad through all here, but it's like as if a maester wrote this book for us to read. So like it takes place within the framework of that world.
Right.
Like it's not a fictional telling. It's like, this is a history book from this world.
Yeah.
And it's pretty damn cool, especially if you got the Barnes & Noble limited edition, which yours truly does have. It has sick maps in it. It has all sorts of cool graphics, really cool storytelling about the history of the Valyrians, how the dragons came, or how the dragons are suspected to have come about. All sorts of cool stuff are in that.
I'm all for it.
You can't have mine, Thrall, by the way.
No, I mean, the thing with Game of Thrones is he might have, I think, what if he's having such a hard time writing because he doesn't know how to put it all back together? Like, the characters are so alive and they're all doing their own thing. It just might be impossible to logically bring everything back,
What do you mean logically bring everything back?
So the way his writing style is that he puts himself in the mind space, or where he hears the character and he lets them like live and evolve in his head and in the story, and he doesn't have pre-planned character arcs. He doesn't plan it out where like, okay, this character is gonna go through this like redemption arc, and this character is gonna go through this like turn into villainy. He doesn't do that. As he writes, he lets each of the characters just organically go their own way. But so on one hand, as a reader, as you're reading things, things feel so real, and the characters feel organic, like they make mistakes, they surprise you, they feel real. Because people, no one has a character arc, as they're living. Maybe looking back, they do. But the problem with that writing style is when the overall story has to have an arc and that arc has to end, corralling all the characters back to the overall arc, the overall storyline is very difficult. And he's written so much and he has so many characters and they're all doing all these different things in a logically or mindful way to get all these characters in the same place doing the same thing. It's really hard. He might not know what to do and how to get everyone back together. Like in the TV show, they just use speed travel where all of a sudden everyone's crossing continents in a day, and all of a sudden all these characters are all in the same fort now. Instead of all over the world, and
that's what I'm super bummed about. Is that they picked Bran to be king instead of Sansa to be the queen. She clearly had the wits for it, and Bran literally could have been her spy master, her intel service. He could have been her NSA.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many better. Listen, the last season of Game of Thrones is so bad it ruined the two director writers' careers. They had a Star Wars movie or trilogy ready and waiting.
Were they working on Star Wars or Star Trek? I thought they were doing Star Trek.
Wars.
It's going to be Star Wars, right? Okay.
Yeah, Star Wars, and it's like the less said about the last season, the better. But J.R. Martin's writing style is really, I think it's biting him in the ass. If he didn't know where things were going to go, he didn't know he didn't think things through early enough. So now we have to deal with this. So I mean, I think anyone who's a Game of Thrones fan, who's read the books, watched the TV show, they might just have to be real comfortable with some headcanon, whatever they come up with the ending on their own, because the last season of the TV show is hot garbage, and J.R. Martin might never finish. So, might as well make up your ending, whatever ending you want. It might be better off.
Yeah. Well, hopefully he gets to finish the books. I do recommend The History of a World of Ice and Fire. It was really good. A great read. Tangential to that, in the sense of a fantastical world, the D&D book, I think it's called The Great Book of Arcana or something like that. I'm mangling it and I'm doing a horrible job. But it was pretty sick. It was another like 30-pound book with a massive amount of trifold, actually quadfold, fold-out maps where, you'd open the page and it'd be a map, and then it'd open up again into a bigger map. It was almost like a New York City subway map. It was pretty cool. We're going to have to link those in the comments, I think, because I'm brain farting on the names really hard tonight.
So this kind of jives with my theory about his writing style. If you give J.R. Martin opportunity to write random one-shots or outside of the main story arc, he pulls it out. Like, you ask him to write, like, the storyline for TV shows, like, he's completely good. He produces. He had there was at least at one point 3 prequel or spin-off shows from Game of Thrones that he was a part of, and the dude was producing. If you give him things disconnected from the overall story, he's great.
Yeah.
But as soon as you ask him to do the real story and he has to now end things, it's not good.
Yeah, those spin-offs were put down quietly, right? Like, we've never heard anything from them since.
Only one is left.
Which one?
I think it's the one that shows it's like a prequel to
Oh, right. I think it's
Baratheons, I think.
No, I don't think it's the Baratheons. I think it's the
Before,
original
like,
Valerians, right?
yeah,
Isn't it
right.
supposed to be the Valerians conquering Westeros?
Yes,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
before Baratheons can get him. Yeah.
Yeah, way before this Westeros. Well, I think when Westeros was seven kingdoms, and then somebody Valerian showed up.
And the thing is, he was involved with all of them. So the guy can do work. I just don't think he understands. I don't think he knows how to finish it off. You might be better off giving it to other talented writers.
Giving it to HBO.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like enjoy your life. Enjoy your life. Enjoy retirement. Give it off. Just hand it over to some other talented fantasy authors. See what they can do with it.
Well, on that note, let's switch over to some 40K because you and I were talking about that a lot prior to this tonight.
Sure,
And
sure.
so a whole slew of new books are coming out. The Horus Heresy series itself has pretty much ended, and they're moving on to the Siege of
No.
Terra
Oh,
series,
yeah.
which follows up
No, Siege of
immediately.
Terra. No, no, no. I thought Siege of Terra is Horus Heresy. I
Yeah,
mean,
the
is it?
books are numbered again from one. So there's
Oh,
the
okay.
first wall, which is Siege of Terra, book one.
Hmm.
Instead of it being Horus Heresy number 58, there's somewhere in the 50s for the books.
Are
I
you?
just finished off Saturnine, and I think you read that as well, right?
Yeah, yeah. Give me your review, man. We were talking about it
Oh,
last time.
Lordy, you're not going to like it. I didn't
Is it?
like
Is
it.
it?
I liked the book for the most part because there were some humanizing factors for some of the arch enemies in there. So this is going to be spoilers, folks, because it is still relatively new, even though Sons of the Selenar has already come out, and that's a complete throwaway book. Don't waste your money on that one. There's Mortis, and I believe Magnus Unleashed are the next two books.
Mortis came out too
I'm
early.
pretty sure Magnus Unleashed, not Unleashed, wow. Magnus Unleashed has come out as well. Somebody is mentioning that in
Hmm.
one of the Facebook fan pages that I'm on. Um, okay, Saturnine is not brand new, but it's still relatively new. So, spoilers, folks. Spoilers. Guess what? Look under your chair with spoilers. So, they humanize the crap out of Abaddon, I think, in this. And even they make it a little more tragic, too, that a whole bunch of the legions are following the traitor Primarchs, because they make it very clear that the Primarchs, even those that are not extremely psychically attuned, like, say, Magnus or
Hmm.
Sanguinius, the Primarchs, just their presence alone has this aura that commands obedience.
Mortarion
So
has
it's like
that.
it's
Yeah.
almost damn impossible to rebel against your Primarch, which speaks to the character of all the legionaries that were part of the traitor legions that actually stayed loyal to the Emperor.
Hmm.
But it's like in a whole bunch of the books, they make it abundantly clear that when a Primarch walks into a room, even the legionaries are just compelled to take a knee.
Hmm.
That it's almost beyond their control to stop it from happening, that it's just sheer force of will not to take the knee if they didn't want to.
And the ranking is not what you expect. Like I thought Horus would be the one because he was the War Master where everyone like falls down right away, and it was like no, the Lion. When the Lion comes to the scene, people are like shook. But when Horus is going
Well, the
through
line
the
doesn't show up in Saturnine, though.
no, just in general, I'm
Oh,
talking about
just in
like
general, yeah.
yeah, like I thought that Horus would be the one where everyone just like goes down on a knee right away.
Yeah.
And it turns out like no, there's a ranking, and some Primarchs they don't. Like Goleman, some do, some don't.
Right.
Everyone when line comes in is like, oh shoot.
Well, I
Oh.
think that's a MacGuffin in the books, though, because he's like, I mean, despite the naming convention that you and I discussed before, and that Games Workshop, the original writers, they picked and chose from a whole bunch of English literature and history to name some of these guys, like Lionel Johnson. Lion L. Johnson is named after a 1980s London poet,
Mm-hmm.
Lionel Johnson, but he's also King Arthur. He's
Mm-hmm.
the head of an order of ancient knights. Who the
Mm-hmm.
hell does that sound like?
Yeah, 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 yeah. With mystical
So,
watchers.
yeah.
Um,
Oh man, they
no, no. So
retconned so much of
keep
that.
going with the review on Saturday night. I want to hear
So
this.
Saturnine specifically, trying to keep it to that, folks. But the stories bleed. a little bit. Some of the books are compartmentalized stories like Sons of the Selenar, utter throwaway. Don't waste your money on it. Wait until it's like a $1 audiobook if you really want to hear it. But don't blow the 18 or $20 it is in a hardcover. Complete waste. So Saturnine, they humanize the hell out of Perturabo, first of all, who is, weird of his name is that he's just always perturbed all the time. He's like an angry marine. Actually, that's more like Angron. He's always angry all the time. But there's a very humanizing scene between Perturabo and Abaddon, where Abaddon walks in on Perturabo on his like command sphere, and Perturabo's out of his armor, which I don't think we've ever seen before in any of the books. He's always in his armor, which is called the Logos, and he's like reclining on a chair. And Abaddon says it's one of the most humanizing things I've ever seen, and one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen. In that Perturabo is smiling about prosecuting the campaign, the siege of Terra against the Imperial Palace, and he's smiling about his work because that's what he was made for. Pretty much.
Well, Perturabo is my favorite traitor primer.
I know you've said that before,
and it showed when Abaddon went into the scene. He looked at the others, and he realized even Horus was useless. Fulgrim was useless. Like they're Primarchs, but if you want to talk to the person really waging war, you talk to Perturabo. He's the MVP. I got into arguments with other people, but he's the MVP.
The real MVP.
He was a real MVP. I mean, the guy.
Yeah, guess what meme is getting popped up in the video of this?
He's the real. I mean, he was the real MVP of the Horus Heresy, and I know there's been some things where he lost, but in the overall aspect, that scene with Abaddon really showed like, oh, Fulgrim is just useless.
Yeah, well, that's because Fulgrim has fallen to Slanesh at that point. He's fully consumed with excess, and like giving him orders is pointless, except for in one scene. So Abaddon actually points out a flaw in the siege to Perturabo, and Perturabo, being perturbed all the time, pretty much says that I'm going to kill you now because, I know more about siegecraft than you do. And Abaddon points out a flaw. It's an old continental fault line that runs under one of the walls.
Yep.
And when we're talking the walls of the Imperial Palace, we're not talking old castle walls, which might have been 3 meters thick, 4 meters thick maybe. We're talking like hundreds of meters thick walls, maybe even more than that, maybe even 1,000-meter thick walls that they're defending, and there's an old fault line. And Abaddon points this out and convinces Perturabo to take this tact and send the throwback to second ed, probably even first edition Rogue Trader Warhammer 40K, before it was called Warhammer 40K, to they were called like the termite mole miners or something like that back in the day, where they were giant underground transport craft that literally burrowed through the ground. And this leads to Abaddon and friends trying or thinking they have the upper hand and that the loyalists don't know about this fault line. And it's Abaddon and pretty much the entire first company of the Sons of Horus / Luna Wolves. They think they're going to infiltrate and attack from underneath. And of course, Dorn knows about this fault line, and he sets up these kill teams to take out the Sons of Horus as soon as they come out of their transports. So that was another humanizing scene for Abaddon that I truly enjoyed, in that a lot of the writing in this one particular chapter is like all internal monologue from Abaddon about like he's having the best time of his life just getting into this fight and fighting for his life and his survival. And he comes to grips with a Blood Angels champion. Abaddon ends up killing the Blood Angels champion, because otherwise if the BA champion won, then we wouldn't have Abaddon in the modern era of 40K. So, but he's having such a great time testing his skill in this fight that the Dark Mechanicum tech priest teleports Abaddon and his survivors out of the fight because they're losing.
And only Abaddon was...
And Abaddon, the chapter ends with him having just like screaming in his own head to be sent back. He wants to get sent back to the fight. I don't think it's because he wanted to die. I think it's because that he was in his element, and that's where he felt most alive.
I think it was a mix of both.
Yeah?
I think it was a mix of both. I think he didn't, the survivor's guilt a little bit, but he was also in his element, but there was also survivor's guilt too.
I don't know if he had survivor's guilt because he was Chthonian born, right? He wasn't a Terran that was inducted into the Luna Wolves. And on Chthania, they grew up in like hive gangs.
Okay, no, I take it back then. I mean, that's a much better reason. I thought there was a little bit more like we're all gonna die together type thing. Like he didn't want to be taken out of the fight, but yeah.
Now on top of that, huge Easter egg. So Arcane Land, that the Land Raider and the Land Speeder are named after, he develops this what amounts to liquid concrete that he makes like bajillion gallons of this stuff somehow between a couple chapters, and he fills the fault line. And there's one of these termite underground transports gets jammed up in this liquid concrete that's like quickset. And the Magos driving the thing is reporting to the Justarian, which is like the cream of the crop champions of the Sons of Horus, him and his 50 guys. The Magos is like, we're stuck. The impellers are shut down. They're filled with concrete. The hatches won't open because we're surrounded by concrete. And the Justarian captain is like, well, how long are we going to be stuck here? And the Magos is like, well, how long does your kind live? So apparently we now know that under the Imperial Palace is a termite transporter full of OG 32K Sons of Horus traitors that may or may not be dead or might be utterly insane or in suspended animation, which is what a Space Marine body can do. If you know.
That scene is considered one of the best scenes in the Horus Heresy.
Yeah, that one, you think?
Yeah. It's considered one of like the most popular scenes. Just the horror of it, and also just the cleverness of it. It was very.
Yeah, the horror. That was definitely a horror scene because it's like, holy shit, we're trapped in concrete forever until we run out of air. But then legionaries can put themselves into a state of suspended animation, which pretty much, according to the fluff, is indefinitely long.
Yeah.
There's that, and most of the Mournival, which was Horus's inner circle of advisors, get taken out in this book too.
It's a mixed book. Like it has things like that
too. It's like 500 pages and change, I think.
Yeah, I mean it's got these incredible scenes, and then it's got stuff that you just gotta ask questions, like Urda.
Yeah, I was gonna get to that next. You beat me to the punch, Troll. Go ahead. Say your side. I'll give you my side after you go. Go ahead.
I think for such a major character, this is not the book to introduce her. You should have introduced her much earlier.
They should have introduced her in, like, say, Rogue Trader.
I mean,
so here's what's up. I'm interrupting you. I apologize. You go. Go ahead. My bad. So, John Grammaticus, there's a couple, more than a couple. There's a handful of perpetuals in this book. I gave you the spoiler alert earlier, folks. So if you're still here, it's on you if you're still listening. There's an Imperial Guardsman Grenadier whose name is Ali Piers. And if you have two brain cells to rub together, you just know that's all person, one of the perpetuals who we haven't seen for a bunch of books. Last we saw of him, he had an anathemine or an athame, whatever the daggers are called, that can cut holes in the warp, and people can pretty much warp travel by just stepping through a tear in reality. It was him leading a bunch of survivors away from Calth. And then poof, he disappears. Haven't heard from him in a while. Now he's on Terra, and he's a grenadier in an Imperial Guard regiment. So he's there. John Grammaticus shows up, and he shows up somewhere in what sounds like a Bedouin nomadic area of the Middle East in a desert, and he finds this whole colony of what I guess are other perpetuals who are led by Urda. Now, if you look up Urda, Urda has Germanic derivative of Earth/Gaia, and then Tiral, my friend, they go ahead and retcon the entire origin of the Emperor. They insert a female character for SJW compliance.
I don't know if it's SJW compliance. I just think this was not the right book to do what they did. Urda, the whole idea of a female and a male, it does go back to mythology.
Yeah, but it ruins it because the original lore first of all, the OG lore is that the Emperor is a being that was conjured into existence by the death of all the shamans in some prehistoric, unrecorded time on Earth. And he came into being from the sum total of their spiritual essence. And then, according to Erda, well, he just kind of popped on the scene during the time of cities, during the time of the first cities. And he has a stupid name. His name
One
is
of the names.
just as
Neo.
His name is just as dumb as Grogu. His name is Neoth.
Yeah.
Okay, that spoils some of the mystery surrounding Big E. On top of that, the original lore of the Primarchs, which is in the beginning of the Horus Heresy books as well, is that they were lab experiments. They were tools for him. They weren't even sons. The Primarchs think they're his sons, but to the Emperor, he literally gave them numbers because they were tools to be used. He didn't give them names. Their home planets they landed on gave them names. They scrap all of that. Now
they were just numbers to him.
Yeah, they were just numbers. They were literally numbers, and he was indifferent when they were stolen through the warp rift and scattered by chaos. And part of that OG lore is the reason they were taken by chaos and scattered is because the Emperor reneged on a deal that he had with Chaos Undivided in order to make the Primarchs in the first place. So that gets tossed out the window. Now they just have to insert a female character, and instead of the Primarchs being just sterile lab experiments, now they have a mommy and daddy because Erda combined her DNA and genetic code with the Emperor's genetic code in order to make the Primarchs. What does that sound like to you, Tiral?
I don't mind the story. I just wish it wasn't in this book. I think
it sounds like mommy and daddy loved each other a lot, and they loved each other so much they had little me.
This is not,
it gets worse. Wait, there's more.
It gets a lot worse. Yeah.
So they also position Erda to be even more powerful than Malkador. So up until this book, the entire last 30 odd years of Warhammer 40k lore, it's been the Emperor has been the preeminent psychic power above and beyond anything in the universe, closely seconded by Malkador, the regent of Terra. Well, guess what? Malkador is now a distant third, and Erda is the second most powerful psychic all of a sudden. Even though somehow, with all these psychic entities running around, and she's in an unprotected, nomadic village out in the Middle East desert someplace, nobody knows she's there. Like, Magnus hasn't picked up on her. None of the untold armies of demons on Terra know that she's there. Fulgrim doesn't know she's there. It was such a bad introduction and such a retcon of so much lore. While they're telling us the lore, they retcon the lore while telling us the lore. Bad move.
I hated that they couldn't come up with a better reason why she yeeted her kids into the warp. She loved them so much and she didn't want them to be with the Emperor that she threw them into the warp.
Yeah, she's now by the way, yeah, that's right. She's also the cause, somehow, through MacGuffin magic, she's the cause of the warp rift in the Emperor's laboratory, instead of it actually being the warp, so rather Chaos Undivided, so pissed at the Emperor on reneging on his deal that they took the Primarchs away. But the OG lore is that Chaos Undivided couldn't destroy the Primarchs because they had so much of the Emperor in them, but they were able to scatter them far and wide in the hopes that the Emperor never found them.
Yeah, it's just I don't agree. Again, remember I was telling you that Saturnine has a mixed reputation. It's got some of the best scenes, and it's got some stuff that you just wonder what they were thinking. And this is one of those where I just don't understand.
Yeah, there was a lot of highs and lows. I agree. Like, so many heroes from all the other books meet their end in this book.
Mm-hmm. If you like Game of Thrones, this is
this is the Game of Thrones book for you. This is the 40k Game of Thrones for you.
Yeah, things go down. But it also it goes down, but it makes sense though. Like when people die, it was like, okay, this makes sense that these were good deaths.
They make it seem like they really paint the picture of the hopelessness of being a defender on the or even around the Imperial Palace. Don't forget the Imperial Palace is like continentally sized. It's somewhere in Asia because it spans the Himalayas and then some. And like there's even comments throughout the book that like whole companies of Imperial Guard are being wiped out. It's like a footnote. Like they might even just miss the name and not realize this entire company is gone until later. So it's war on a colossally continentally massive size.
Mind-boggling. Like the most epic intergalactic war, the end stage. So this goes back to a point I was trying to make. This is the end game. This is when everyone dies. This is where all the legends come from. This is where humanity loses.
Right.
Now is not the time to drop info dumps about the origins of the Primarch.
Yeah, or like the Emperor's main squeeze.
Right. Right. Yeah. Like it's not appropriate. Like now is like you just keep going on about these fights and about the strategic struggle and about what the characters are going through. Now is not the time to talk about perpetuals, the Cabal. Like I didn't care about the stuff with Cabal and
yeah. They never even really followed up on that. That was mentioned in a couple books. We know that the Alpha Legion is wrapped up with them, and then poof, it was off the table for a while.
Mortis has more on it.
Yeah, I got to get the next two, so no spoilers for me, my friend.
Oh, okay. But it's just whatever downs there were in Saturnine, they weren't from the fights, and they weren't from like character studies where like people are just willingly going to their deaths, but that's because they had to do it. Like there was a lot of this war story that was brilliant. It's just the other stuff is. I really don't know if the whole perpetual thing was a good idea at the end. I think that was a misstep. The 40K universe would be just as good without it.
I guess it'll come to a head because they also make it clear that like all the Primarchs are pretty much perpetuals and not just Vulcan in Saturnine. Like okay, we know that
their souls are
Iron
perpetual.
Man, aka Ferrus Manus, or Iron Hands, I guess. He died because he was decapitated, but then Vulcan can't die no matter what gets done to him. Like he literally fell out of a starship and survived atmospheric re-entry and splattering into the ground.
Yeah, he's a true Vulcan is a true perpetual.
Yeah.
But there's hints that maybe his perpetualness is over. Like he died too many times, so now.
No, he didn't. They tell you where he is in this book. That the Emperor put him in on the other side of the wards in the webway that Magnus broke, and Vulcan is the last bulwark of defense on the inside of the webway against the demonic incursion.
Are you talking about the talisman?
About the what?
The talisman?
No, I'm talking about Magnus breaks the seal to the webway and ruins the webway pretty much that leads to the Imperial Palace, which was the Emperor's grand plan for humanity to no longer rely on warp travel. They were going to be able to break in and use the webway. Yeah. And Magnus broke that, and then there was like a whole book.
Well, this is post-Horus Heresy, where between the War of the Beast and Conrad Kurz killing Vulcan over and over again, that there's hints that he might not be able to come back the next time.
Okay, well in Saturnine,
Saturnine is
mainly mentioned that Vulcan is on the inside of the webway, and he's the last bulwark of defense against the demonic incursion, trying to break the wards that the Emperor is now required to sit upon the golden throne in order to keep those wards sealed. Which I do like, that like during Saturnine, nobody has a clue why the Emperor hasn't presented himself yet for the defense. There's a lot of people like, where is he? Like, what's going on? Why hasn't he shown up yet? And I do like that
only Magnus and Vulcan knew.
Magnus did nothing wrong.
He totally did everything wrong.
I do like the idea that there's a sense of, even though we know how it plays out because we're the audience and we're stupid, crazy fanboys about this stuff, I like that Rogal Dorn has the Phalanx, which is most likely a Blackstone fortress. He has his flagship hiding in reserve in order to evacuate the Emperor, should it come to that. And that's like, whoa, like knowing that was a contingency plan, that evacuation was a contingency plan, that's it. If the Emperor leaves Terra, that Terra is forfeit. and there would probably be no chance of recovering it because it would turn into a demon planet. Because once he leaves, the wards that are holding the demons at bay in the webway, that breaks, and then they could just flood through the Imperial Palace and take over the planet.
Yeah, and that's what the talisman is for. It's the dead man switch to blow
Yeah, I've
up
heard the rumor of that too.
It's not a rumor. It's real. I mean,
what book is that from?
You want me to Google? It's
Nah, don't do it now, man. We're just jiving.
Yeah, no,
I can't say that. Sorry, we're just BSing.
I mean, so one of the things. I mean, Vulcan is my favorite loyalist Primarch. Him and the Emperor actually have this level of trust that he doesn't have with anybody else, and he tells Vulcan to smith a failsafe device that'll blow up the Earth, the Terran system, to keep it from falling to demonic hands if they get through the webway. So that's why they can't let the Emperor die, because if he dies, then everybody dies in the Terra system. And Vulcan designed it. So there's this level of trust there. I think only Vulcan knows about it too.
All right. I vaguely remember hearing something about that, so I might be wrong, but it was a fan theory. It might actually be written in some place.
Yeah.
Another reveal in this book, which I feel like was a callback to the really old and highly recommended to read Ian Watson trilogy of Draco, Harlequin. I think the third book is Star Child, or it might be Demon Child. Inquisitor Draco is the main character in that book, and in one of he makes it into the actual throne room to speak with the Emperor, and he walks in thinking, I'm going to speak with the Emperor. And in the Ian Watson trilogy, Inquisitor Draco doesn't get to speak to the Emperor. He gets to speak to a fragmented piece of the Emperor's personality, which I thought was insanely cool. And in Saturnine, they drop that the Custodes are infused with a piece of the Emperor's persona. So they've made it pretty clear that the Custodes is the legion that's based off the Emperor as their Primarch.
Wait, I think I have something that conflicts with what you just said. What I think is the Custodes are like handmade custom creations by the Emperor. The Grey Knights are from either him or Litu, but the Grey Knights have the DNA from the Emperor.
I'm sorry, sir, but I'm shaking my head. In one of the previous books, I can't remember which one. It might have been the Master of Mankind, but Malkador opens a rift to Titan. And, there's been the Knights Errant of Malkador running around for a while, where he's handpicked and chosen. I can't get my verb tenses right tonight. He handpicked a whole bunch of Astartes, and then he finally tells them all that your mission is up, and this is your new base of operations, and you're going to start a new order. And he sends them through a warp rift to Titan. And like the whole, I'm paraphrasing now, but the whole implication of the book is that he's sending them to start the Grey Knights order on Titan.
So I think I'm right about the Custodes. There's a reason why the Custodes don't have gene seed. When a Custodes dies, that's it. Each one is a custom creation by the Emperor.
Yeah, that I think I get. And also that they fight individually. They don't fight in squads. They don't fight with like small unit tactics, even large
they're not
scale
human.
tactics.
Yeah, they're not really human at all. Where I think the Grey Knights. So this is why me and you might be disagreeing, because this might be a point of retcon. I think originally the Grey Knights they took a piece of Magnus, a shard of Magnus, and then made them with them. Then there's talk about the Grey Knights saying that no, our gene seed is directly from the Emperor, and that's why you can't have a Grey Knight ever succumb to demon. And so
I think that's more recently defined in one of the more recent Horus Heresy books, because Malkador literally has his Knights Errants, which are the handpicked legionaries from various legions that are in the gray armor, that are running like Spec Ops, Black Ops missions for him. And he finally sends them all through a warp rift to Titan, and Titan is the home base of the Grey Knights. So he sends the original founders of the Grey Knights through, and it's pretty blatant who these guys are and what they're starting once they get the Titan.
I kind of feel like Games Workshop wants to delete Grey Knights out of the whole story. I kind of feel, you ever get that feeling where it's just like, they
Well, it's
don't
because
fit
you know
in?
what it is. I don't think they have enough writing staff to punch out all of the codex. Like, you know, it'd be phenomenal if like this is Codices month, and all the codexes are coming out in, I don't know, April. Everybody gets a new codex in April instead of piecemeal, and it's like, oh, okay, we're up to edition 10. We'll finally get back to the Grey Knights codex, or whatever. But there's one other thing I wanted to point out too, that we were talking about, is that they also introduced, they did a very soft introduction of yet another perpetual named Astarte, and apparently she was almost single-handedly involved with creating the legions, which was never the case. It was that the Emperor used watered-down research from creating the Primarchs to create the legions, and again, they were pretty much lab experiments.
Yeah.
So it's like, and you mentioned the name before too that I was going to get to. We might have passed over it real quick, but Litu. So the accepted theory is Litu is an Easter egg for the name of the limited editions Rogue Trader era Metal Space Marine that came out before the plastic boxed set of Space Marines came out. Because the model number of the model was LE2. Litu.
Oh, okay, that's what.
And in the book, holy shit, they pretty much make Litu. They describe him as a proto Primarch. So, like,
yeah,
what
like
the hell, man?
proto.
They completely make him a proto Primarch, and it's like, where's this guy been then? Where's his legion? He's not 2 or 11 because Grammaticus would have known that. Like John Grammaticus is super knowledgeable. He's one of the rare few people in existence that has seen the Emperor's true form.
They were friends. He was a follower of the Emperor.
Yeah. Grammaticus was. I don't know if they were friends. I don't think the Emperor actually had friends. You know what I mean? But
So one idea that I like is that, okay, let's say perpetuals, right? Almost all the perpetuals at one point in time followed the Emperor, but they all like fell off. They all like disagreed with him or decided they didn't want a part of his vision. And Malcador was the only one that stuck with him, friends to the end. So I think Malcador is BFF.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. The Emperor and Malcador are BFFs. Oh, that's another thing too. Is Malcador is as old as the Emperor. They brought that up in Saturnine. There's another perpetual that's locked up in like this cushy prison. And he said he's something like 15,000 years old. Something Foe. Something, the first name escapes me right now, but the last name was Foe. And he too was like this top tier fantastical geneticist that worked on some of the Emperor's projects. And then he became like a serial killer or something like that. But it's like they're just dropping these people in and like demystifying Malcador and the Emperor left and right now. It's like, oh, not only is he that old, but I'm that old too. And I was there at the beginning and helped him do this, that, and the other thing. Too much retconning in one book, first of all. And adding the mommy character was definitely like completely demystifies too much of the OG lore.
They should have done it before, not now. Now it should be about the end game. It shouldn't be about info lore dumps from back in the day.
Yeah, there's the accepted lore that's been out there for 30 some odd years, and to try and retcon so much in one book was a big mistake, I think.
So it's a mixed book. I mean, again, the review on Saturnine it's a must read, but there's going to be whole parts of it where you're just like, I wish this wasn't here.
I wish I wasn't here. I wish I was anywhere else but Terra right now.
Like it was just like, maybe 5 books ago. If we learned about Erda 5 books ago, I would be like, oh, okay, all right.
I think even earlier in the series when they really started like dumping in the perpetuals, we started learning a lot about them.
Yeah,
and maybe there would have been a book, like for example, right?
It wouldn't be so jarring.
Sons of the Selenar was a throwaway book. Contrasting to that, if they did an earlier, like in series but yet standalone book about the perpetuals, that would have been cool. You know what I mean? Like how a bunch of the
Yeah.
books in the Horus Heresy series are really just these one-off side stories that just happen to take place in the same time frame, but they don't progress the story nor impact the story really. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What if we're just gonna have to eat some of this because they might have had like the writers group might have had all these things that were like, okay, this is on a list of things to write and show and put in the lore, and they just didn't get to it before, so now they have this backlog of stuff that they're like, oh, we gotta fit this in, like it's supposed to be in there, and like maybe the next two books, like or the next whatever books are left, they're gonna keep dumping these lore dumps like that don't make sense because they're like, well, we were supposed to have these in there, and the series is almost over. Literally, I think the series has one book left to be written, or two. So they might just have all this lore dumps that they were supposed to get to, they didn't, and now they have to just do it.
Yeah, it's kind of like season 8 of Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean I mean it's not the best way to do it, but I guess like, if you have a writing, and that's what the Horus Heresy books really are. They're a large writing group project. You have so many writers, all of them have to be on the same page, all of them have to be working from the same Bible,
Hmm.
and you know you can't, and these books have to come out in time because the popularity of Warhammer is exploding, so they can't wait months and months and months between new books. They gotta feed the beast while people are willing to pay money. So it's I get it. It's a hard project. It's a very difficult project.
Oh yeah, the more that's one of the big differences between the writing now and the writing back in the day is that the authors back then had so much more artistic license and freedom.
Yeah, and
Pretty
it
much
was
as
built
long as
so
they
much
stayed
better
in the
for it.
framework of 40K, that was it. And then like the Ravenor omnibus,
Mhm.
there's a description. He's chasing down these chaos cults that are like nothing we've seen now. They're
Mhm.
not written. They're so much more mysterious and menacing and just outright like horror. It's like horror writing almost. And then finally, chaos comes into being, and it's not like a bunch of guys with spikes coming out of their shoulders. It's like a continent-sized amorphous thing that just starts to come into being on this planet. It's horrifying. We're getting kind of close to that. Actually, we're way past that time, if I'm being honest. A couple more points I wanted to make. Abaddon definitely is way more humanized in Saturnine in some follow-up books that take place right after the Horus Heresy, which is the Talon of Horus and the Black Legion. I don't think they're named as being in a series, but it's like book 1 and book 2 of a 3-part series. He's even more humanized than that. Like he reflects on a lot of what went wrong and what could have gone different. And then I wanted to discuss a little piece of my own personal headcanon, and I think you might have it too, Terral, is that Roland Dorn was a black guy originally in the John Blanche artwork.
Yeah, black guy with gray hair.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was the
and
way I pictured it too.
and now all of a sudden he's not. So I'd be
Well,
curious to know.
now most people think he has a handlebar mustache.
Yeah, right. No, he's a British guy with a handlebar mustache instead, and
With the
a derby
connected
hat.
side. I mean, we were looking at the old artwork. Oh man, I did a really uber dork thing. You're not gonna be proud of me, but you're gonna ask me for it.
Uh-oh.
We after me and you were looking at just trying to scrounge up for classic Warhammer paintings and drawings to see
Yep.
like what Dorn was. I just literally went on a Warhammer database, Tumblr, and downloaded everything they got. And at first I thought I was like, oh, this is gonna be like 2,000 pictures and whatnot. It turned out to be 40,000. Like
40,000 pictures, huh, for Warhammer 40K?
yeah, like 80, like like 8, 9 gigs of pictures, and I'm like, oh my god.
Uh,
So I think in that database, you and I can figure out if Dorn was black or not. But
yeah, right. Well, again, I have it somewhere. I ended
no,
up
we
cheating and
we
looking
found
it
the
up
two
online.
pictures.
Yeah, no,
You had the
that's because I
notes.
looked it up online. But I used to collect the art books until they just started coming out too often and they were just too damn expensive. But I
Hmm.
have one of John Blanche's art books, and it's in it is a whole bunch of the designs of the Primarchs and just the Warhammer world in general. And
I mean, by the way, like again, I hope I don't sound hypocritical when I was talking about. I hope both of us don't sound hypocritical when we were complaining about Black Superman. Roald Dorn is a major character in this franchise, and we both are like, hey, I thought he was black. I thought there was two
like
black Primarchs.
so I will go out there and say that if they turned him into a white dude, I'd actually be pretty pissed because he started out as a black guy and there was no reason to change him.
I think they definitely did turn into a white guy.
That or our headcanon is wrong.
Yeah, like I mean, no, we found the two pictures where he was black.
Yeah.
He had dark skin, gray hair, and again, this it's not a huge deal, but it was just one of those weird Mandela things where we were both like, wait a minute, I thought that was. I tend to look at the good. You know what I liked in Saturnine too? There was this one corner that they talked about with Angron coming in, and I think that was Saturnine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like where Angron was coming in, and they're fighting off Angron, and he just got atomized, and he just grew back again, and I was just like, whoa, Angron the Red Angel, and there was also like connected story where there was this commander or general who got into argument with Dorn or somebody, one of the Primarchs, either Jagatai or Dorn, and he got demoted into like being a field commander. And the dude was like, actually, I'm happy now. I'm tired of, being away from the front lines and telling people what to do. I want to fight. And I think Roald Dorn sends a Space Marine to go get him because where he was going to be a place that was going to be sacrificed.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
the dude's
it was to maintain the ruse that Dorn didn't know about the continental fault line underneath this particular wall. So to convince Perturabo that he didn't know that Dorn didn't know about it, he sent like full companies to defend this wall, and he didn't tell any of them except this one guy. This one guy figured it out actually on his own. That commander figured it out on his own that that's where he was being sent, and that it was a sacrifice play.
And the Space Marine tried to convince him, like, hey, I'm here to stop you from going there because we need you. You're a general. Forget that argument. Don't worry about it. Like, you're not going. He's like, I'm not. I'm going to fight. And then the Space Marine is like,
He's like, well, then I'm going with you.
Yeah, like he just was like, well, I guess we're both going. And then there was this one of my favorite lines. A very popular line is where they're looking at the situation and they're totally screwed. And the Space Marine's trying to get his attention, and the dude just like turns to him like, listen, I know what you're gonna say. I'm not leaving. This is where this is where I'm fighting. I'm gonna die or I'm gonna die. And the Space Marine goes like, no, I wasn't going to say that. I was just telling you, like, we have to look at these, these targets and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that there was these scenes in this book that just hit hard. And
yeah,
I tend to
stand. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you again.
No, I'm just saying I tend to focus on the good rather than the bad. Like, I think the bad parts are kind of throwaway almost. But the fight, what the book's supposed to be about, is great.
Well, like that, some of those scenes, like they evidence how good they are, because I remember some of the names. The Space Marine you're talking about, his name was Caldwaller. And then there's another scene where there's a Imperial Fist champion that finds this completely broken Imperial Guard company that's just trying to retreat back to wherever they can retreat to, Cambodias. And he ends up holding this bridge by himself against like hordes
for my lord
berserkers, and he dies fighting them. But he's killed so many of them that even though he's dead, he's still standing because the bodies of them are just pressed against him. I was like, that was insane. That was an insane scene. That was so cool.
The line the mantra that he kept repeating to himself, for my Lord Dorn.
There was that and no step back or something like that. Like he drew a line behind him. He said, I'm not retreating past this line. And like he died in front of the line still. He never
Everybody died. Back. Everybody died.
No, everybody did in that story, yeah. But like that particular one guy, Cambodias, it was so cool that he stood. It was him and two other Imperial Fists. And the other two guys took out like tons of World Eater berserkers, and then they got overwhelmed. And he was the last one standing. And they describe it that like he was still standing in front of the line, and he never fell because he just killed so many World Eaters that they were pressed against him, and he was still held up just by their bodies, even though he was dead.
I'm gonna ask
Like,
you
I
this,
thought that
right?
was sick. That's an insane storytelling.
I'm gonna ask you this: was that peak Iron Fist, Imperial Fist? I mean, I think it is. Like, for my Lord Dorn, I'm standing. I will stand for my Lord Dorn. Like, I was just like,
Yeah.
oh, like, is it like in my head? I'm like, is it time to buy minis and paint them yellow? Is this where we're? You read
Look,
that?
man, we're way past that time. Just one last parting shot here is where the hell is Erebus? We haven't seen him in a super long time.
I don't think Erebus left.
Nah, he got the bejesus beat out of him by Karn when Karn was still sane
Yeah,
because of the death of Argel Tal, which is one of
yeah.
the Galver back for Lorgar. Argel Tal dies, and Karn was, I think, as best as one could say, friends with Argel Tal, and it was because of the manipulations of Erebus that Argel Tal died,
Mm.
and Karn like beats Erebus into a pulp to like the very edges of Space Marine endurance, and that's it. I think it's the last time we saw him, which was a while ago. I think that was in like the first Heretic, which was a ways back in the series now.
I kind of scratched it out as like, okay, his part in the story is done. Like, he's not a frontline fighter.
That's true.
Yeah, he did what he did.
All right, folks. I think we've covered Saturnine. I would still recommend it as a read. How about you, Tiral?
I think it's a must read.
Yeah.
It's
Despite some
absolutely
of
a
the
must read.
downers and the SJW retconning, it's definitely worth the read.
Yeah.
One final thing. This is really like my fourth or fifth final thing, but it's guaranteed to be my final thing. There is some pencil sketch art throughout the book. For the OG fans, the deep divers here, you may recall that the original, I think it was the original Imperial Guard Codex, had a bunch of guardsmen running towards a battlefront, and one of them is carrying a banner. Like the banner takes up half the page, and it's a guy's poorly drawn face with a halo and a laurel wreath, and it says Olanius underneath it, and they cement that lore that all person is that guy on the banner because one of the pencil sketches is Ollie Pierce, which we know by his introduction is All Pearson, the Perpetual. It's a pencil sketch of him standing alone against Angron. So,
boy, do they make Angron look good.
yeah,
Oh
they
boy.
actually, Angron actually, damn it, this is like my fifth final thought, but in the book, Angron actually gives terms of surrender before going full batshit crazy and
Yeah.
attacking. But he comes forth by himself and gives terms of surrender, and then he gets atomized and then just comes back together.
I think Angron is probably the most disrespected Primarch out there. I think everyone just dunks on him, but with Saturnine, they really made him like, no, 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 he's scary. This is nuclear bomb on two legs. Like, yeah, I mean, a Magnus too. Magnus, is no Rage of Magnus. Which one is the book where Magnus came in and just wrecked everything? It might have been post heresy. Magnus doesn't need help looking badass.
There's
Angron
a
did.
couple. There's a Space Marines battle book that's called Battle of the Fang, which is 40K era, but Demon Primarch Magnus shows up to exact revenge, and then there's a couple other books where he's popped in and out. I even think some of the campaign books, like not Cadia, it has a different name. Not Cadia Falls, even though Cadia blows up. But I think in some of them, like the Psychic Awakening books, Magnus pops in to try and exact his revenge on the Space Wolves again, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, man, we are way past that point, and I doubt anybody's listening anymore.
You mean you sure you want to stop talking Warhammer? I mean,
Yeah, no, I'm good
it's only
because this
2
is going to.
a.m. ish on my end. I mean, we can go for another hour. You can take a break and come back for another hour.
Man, there's going to be a lot of editing, and I'm gonna have to dig up some memes for the video. So on that note, folks, I guess this is another Nerd Out special for Tiral and I about one of our favorite plastic crack addictions.
Taking a break from politics.
Yeah, we're going to take a break from the politics for now. I'm sure we'll be back for that next week. So you all have a good night. Thanks for listening. As always, stay safe out there. Be careful. And please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Have a good night.